About once a week, I get a report that looks like this called Content Intelligence Brief. Boy, doesn't that sound important? And what it is, it's a fairly sophisticated search of sort of what's going on in the world from different perspectives and kind of the areas that I teach on and I mentor on and different things like that. So in this case here, what I'm going to do is go through, there's one, two, three, four, there's five kind of summaries that it's come back with. And this is in the section, it's called spiritual pain points, if you will. So it's challenges that people often encounter on their spiritual journey, and then just my comments on them, and hopefully there's some tidbits that you can use. So this one is huge. Spiritual bypassing is still the dominant pattern, and then the phrase underneath it is, I keep spiritualizing my problems instead of actually dealing with them. I think the primary reason that happens, and I've said this right from the beginning of my teaching career, which is 20 some years now, is the difference between information and understanding. So so many of these, I find, like the spiritual practices, they're intellectual, or they're built on memorization, right? I'm doing these steps, I'm doing these processes, but there isn't that foundation of why you're doing them. And until you know why you're doing them, it's very challenging to take the information and embody it in the understanding. This one's a big one. I'm doing the work, but I feel more lost, not less. And in a way, these kind of build on each other's. There isn't one manual, there isn't one course, there isn't one path that's the universal, I don't know, path to enlightenment. And for me, kind of building on that first one, if we don't have an understanding of this terrain that we're navigating, it would only make sense to feel more lost. And I guess in many respects, first of all, understanding that it's kind of your job to figure out your path and not to rely or accept somebody else's path as being yours. So this is what happens often, is especially if you're kind of just starting your spiritual journey, is you find a source of information, a person in a place, whatever it is, and we go, okay, so that must be the path for me. And I think that's the first thing we do where we end up getting lost, is your path is unique to you. And I always encourage folks, especially at the beginning of their spiritual journey, to try all these different things, to the techniques and methodologies and philosophies, and develop your own blend of what works for you. And then what happens is, now you're taking your power back to discover and explore your path. I think that's a big piece of that. And this kind of fits. Interesting how these all kind of have a similar theme. Awakening symptoms with no map. Something is clearly happening in me, emotionally, physically, energetically, and I don't know what it is. Again, back to we start down these journeys. Sure, that'll work. But we don't have this mechanical understanding of what that journey looks like. And kind of, not to sort of get on my own soapbox here, but that's a big piece of what my teachings have done right from the very beginning, is what does this landscape look like? I'm working on a manual right now on one of the bridges. If you go to the website, you'll see the different bridges called the Calm Bridge. And one of them is how to stay grounded as you navigate this, and how to manage this increase or this influx of energy. So that's really what's happening is, so your awareness is expanded. So you're receiving more information. And to get really specific, your nervous system, which is a translator of that, is still catching up. So to me, the big thing with this is understanding what's happening, right? You just currently have more information than your nervous system can assimilate. And there really isn't anything you need to do other than do nothing. This is where your spiritual practice, this is where anything you could do to help you feel grounded, to help you feel balanced, and allow your whole system to rebalance itself. See, you don't have to balance it. Your job is to stay as balanced as you can while it rebalances itself. But that's balanced a lot of times. And again, these kind of fit all together. The hollowness of performative healing. This is something. And this comes from like real world conversations that people are having out there. I post about my healing. I watch other people post about theirs. none, none of us look like we're actually healing. It's just some comments here I just jotted down. The healing culture has become a content format. The demand for substance, real mechanics, real results is what really matters. And that's why for me, I kind of the same theme, right? Sit down and think about it. Don't just take whatever you receive and go, "Oh, that must be right." Figure it out for yourself. And this is your spiritual practice. What's your spiritual practice? Whatever you do to help yourself feel sometimes even just a semblance of peacefulness, of stillness, of groundedness. That's kind of what I often will say is keep your keel down and the sails up. Right? I think what we need to understand and remember is this journey that you've started on, it's like it has its own intelligence. And in many respects, we don't have to make it happen now that it's been initiated. Our job is just to kind of do our best to maintain our balance and allow that natural evolution to take place. Boy, I saved the best for last. Why does spiritual community sometimes feel worse than being alone? And I'm going to close with this one. I'm a big fan of politics. I'm glad there are people that have a passion for politics. I don't. And you guys all know there's freaking politics everywhere, right? In a friend group, in a workplace, in a social environment, in an online community, there's always these damn politics. And when you think about it, in so many respects, it flies directly in the face of what spirituality is supposed to be. I had a phrase, an anchor phrase. I have these anchor phrases that I've often used is in the spiritual healing community, especially with practitioners, is that it's all love and light until they get their business cards made. And then it's, hey, don't you look at my client. Don't you be stealing my client. And then they forget all the foundational principles that apparently the healing practice was built upon. The only relationship that matters for you is the one with the person in the mirror. That's it. And the more you focus on that, the less you need, right? Doesn't mean we don't desire connection and things like that, but the less you need connection and the less you get caught up in this thing called politics, which I don't think we can ever eradicate it. I think it's just always going to be there. Probably the real question is, how do I choose not to play that game? And as you focus on your own journey, as you focus on yourself, what I find is, well, your spiritual journey, your spiritual path, you walk it alone, it doesn't mean it's a lonely path. And what will happen is you will find other travelers walking their own spiritual path, doing the work, going through the uncomfortableness, everything like this. So then the two of you can walk your own, or two or more, right, can walk your own spiritual paths together. Right? That's the news and the views for this week. Thanks for tuning in. See you on the web.